welcome back. Today I want to talk to you about Jonathan Edwards' book, Charity and Its Fruits. It's a collection of 15 sermons on 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Today we are on the fifth sermon. The fifth sermon is on verse 4 of 1 Corinthians 13. Charity envieth not. And so the idea here is that we should not envy, and the Lord forbids envying, and so we must be the sort of people that don't envy. And so what does it mean to envy? Well, the opposite of envy would be to rejoice, to be happy when other people succeed. And so in a sense then, envy is to spite someone, or to have a bad feeling toward them, or bad thoughts of someone. When you see them succeed, it makes you unhappy. And so what does it mean then for us to envy? Well, we can envy in lots of different ways, and Edward spends a fair amount of time in this sermon talking about ways that we can envy, but sometimes it just looks like someone is happy or potentially significantly happier than you are, and when that happens, it kind of ruins your day. It makes you unhappy. You're unhappy to see them so happy with so much success. And sometimes when we see people succeed in this way, what we want to do is we want to kind of bad talk them. Maybe say, well, they do have that, but they're not so great after all. And so this is one way, one thing that envy can look like. It can be talking bad about or trying to bring down someone who's risen above you. Envy is a tough thing. Imagine two folks together in school, maybe students side by side, and they were equal. They were both popular or both trying to succeed, and then one just really hits the big time and really succeeds, and the other one is left behind. Well, that person left behind can be left with feelings of envy, feeling like, wow, I wish they hadn't succeeded so much. It makes me feel really bad that they've succeeded so much. And maybe if you finally see that one who succeeded so much, they finally have a downfall, you kind of rejoice. You're happy to see them fall. And these are just a few different ways that we see envy. Envy is a bit of an ugly thing. It's a thing that sometimes happens just inside your heart. Sometimes it happens outside. Sometimes envy is wrong, and you just dwell on it in your heart, and you have enough sense to hide it from everybody else. And sometimes it's just right out there for everybody to see. Everybody can see you are envious. And what Edwards wants us to see is that envy is contrary to a Christian disposition, and a Christian disposition especially, because we are supposed to love. We're supposed to love God and love others, and we're supposed to rejoice when other people succeed. So one of the things that he wants us to think about then is that God, of course, is in charge of all things, and he's in charge of that person succeeding and you not succeeding, and therefore you have to be content in whatever your circumstances are. And so if the Lord has you in circumstances that are not as successful, humanly speaking, as someone else, you should learn to be content and to trust the Lord in the circumstance in which you are in. Secondly, we just know that we're supposed to rejoice with those who rejoice. So when we see someone else succeeding and rejoicing, we ought to rejoice with them. We ought not to wish them harm or to wish them a failure, but we want to see them to rejoice with them. They have reason to rejoice in their success, and we ought to rejoice with them. There's really many verses in the New Testament that speak about how envy is sort of contrary to the way Christians should be and think and act. And so we want to just bear these in mind. We ought to not envy because we are commanded to not envy. One of the things, the ways that Edwards speaks about envy also in this section is he says, sometimes we already are, in a sense, perhaps a little bit above someone else. Maybe we are in a particular area of prominence in one area or another. And sometimes envy looks like, I don't want them down there to get too close to where I am. I'm enjoying my prominence up here. And so I don't want them to kind of come up and enjoy all that I get to enjoy. I kind of like looking down on others. And this is another form of envy. And Edwards sort of picks up on that and moves along on that and says, God is nothing like envy. God is the opposite of envy. God finds us in a low place, and he wants to bring us up. God the Father had the greatest thing imaginable. He had Jesus Christ, and he didn't say, well, I just want to keep Jesus to myself. Rather, he sends Jesus into the world to save sinners. And so God is not the sort of one who keeps all the good things to himself. As a matter of fact, the greatest thing that he had, that God the Father had, was fellowship with the Son and with the Spirit. And so the greatest thing he had was the fellowship with the Son, and he doesn't keep this great fellowship to himself. Rather, he makes the possibility of us joining in that fellowship and enjoying that great fellowship. And so God is the opposite of envious. He is just generous and kind and wants us to be blessed, and he means to bless us. And so we should love that our God is not envious and has no traces of envy in him. But on the other hand, notice how Satan is a little bit the epitome of envy. He sees himself having lost fellowship with God, been cast out of heaven, and he sees Adam and Eve enjoying fellowship with God in the garden, and he says, look, I'm miserable. I don't have fellowship with God. I'm miserable, and I want them to be miserable too. And so he goes and he tries to tempt and to bring them out of their happiness. And again, this is what envy looks like. It sees those that are enjoying something that you're not enjoying and saying, I'm miserable and I'd like for you to come join me in my misery. And so we see then that there couldn't be any more polar opposites between God and the devil on this. God is generous and wants others to be blessed, and Satan is the opposite. He's ugly and he wants to remove people from joy. And so what we want to say is that we realize that Jesus came to destroy the works of the devil, and so we should want nothing to do with envy, and we want to be all about being generous and rejoicing in those who are blessed. And this is what the Lord models for us, and we want to be that way as well to the praise of his glory.